The phrase accessible architecture is often associated with spaces that are considerate and responsive to mobility-based disabilities, but what about sensory-based disabilities? Regardless of scale, deaf, deafblind, blind, and hard of hearing individuals are not often considered during the design and construction of our built environment, ultimately creating cities that are not adequately accessible to all. Some of the blame could be apportioned to those who design and construct our cities, from the architects and urbanists to the engineers and builders, but ultimately it comes down to a lack of knowledge surrounding deaf culture and its integration into architecture. Despite this, our advocates around the world are looking to understand how deaf culture can be manifested into the built environment, which is commonly regarded as DeafSpace. The term DeafSpace is used interchangeably to identify deaf culture and its manifestations into both architectural theory and architectural practice. Instead of viewing deafness as a disability, most members of the deaf community see their deafness as a way of experiencing a sensory-rich world through vision and touch, utilizing sign language as a visual and kinetic means of expression. Deaf space is a result of a deaf spatial adaptation to a built environment that is predominantly designed for and by hearing people. The practical acts of making a deaf space are best understood when members of the deaf community congregate. Without a formal discussion, the group will rearrange the furniture into a circle to allow ease of communication, while also manipulating lighting conditions to mitigate the effects of eye strain. Although these might be unintentional and almost habitual methods of placemaking for the deaf, it resembles a considered and sensitive archetype that responds to the limitations of an environment that was not designed for their spatial needs in mind. The integration from deaf culture into both theoretical and spatial interventions can be seen in the Sorensen Language and Communication Center at Gallaudet University. Working with deaf staff and students, hearing architect Hansel Baumann developed over 150 theoretical spatial interventions that were used throughout the center and can be understood in the following 5 concepts. Deaf individuals should be spatially orientated and visually aware of their surroundings to maintain a sense of well-being, as they are acutely aware of visual and tactile sensory cues like shadows, vibrations, and the shifts in body language of surrounding people. Large, open spaces with visually permeable partitions through multiple levels allows for enhanced spatial awareness and orientation, providing opportunity for conversations from multiple vantage points. Transparent glass walls throughout the interior rooms allow for unimpeded visual connection, while translucent glass only portrays the movements of silhouettes, encouraging privacy without the complete disconnection. As sign language is a visual and kinetic language, signers often stand at a distance that allows them to appropriately see the full dimension of the other signer's signing space. The design of large and adaptable social spaces allows for complete spatial manipulation to suit a variety of conversations from small groups to large cohorts. Desks are slightly curved to create a large social circle when pieced together, but wheels are also added to the bases of all of the furniture items to encourage spatial placemaking. When conversing while walking, signers may maintain a larger distance apart to facilitate a conversation that allows for a continual connection to the signing space. Substantially wide circulation spaces are utilized to allow groups of people to experience uninterrupted conversations while moving through transitional spaces. Ramps are also utilized over stairs wherever possible to mitigate tripping hazards for individuals focused on conversation. Inadequate lighting conditions such as glare, shadows, and backlit surfaces are major contributors to eye strain and physical exhaustion, often impeding conversation. Walls of coated glass allow dappled natural light to penetrate the interior spaces without casting harsh and distracting shadows, while controllable artificial light provides adaptability after hours. Blue and green surfaces integrate throughout interior spaces as they contrast best against a variety of skin tones to mitigate fatigue and eye strain. Regardless of hearing levels, deaf people who use assistive devices to enhance sound, such as hearing aids or cochlear implants, find that sounds can be a major distraction and spatially disorientating. Hard building surfaces reflect sound waves and increase rates of reverberation that are picked up by these devices, so sound-absorbing materials are utilized throughout interior spaces. Modern technological advancements will see the creation of new and accessible technologies for the built environment, even if they're not designed specifically for accessibility. Smart home technologies can already allow for the control of lighting, air conditioning, curtains, and even the locks of your front door through a touch of the button, bidding adieu to the flashing lamps of the past. Despite pioneering a new approach to design, DeafSpace does not address the possibilities of tactile and olfactory interventions. Some of these interventions could include the use of wooden floors that encourage an understanding of spatial movement through an analysis of vibrations, or even through the use of different smells to help orientate deaf-blind or blind occupants. The way architecture is taught, practiced, and implemented around the world is predominantly ocular-centric and fails to understand the detailed aspects of sensory design which could make our built environment more holistically accessible. Although some architectural movements have attempted to address this design mindset, further integration of DeafSpace, universal design, and phenomenological thinking should be taught throughout the architecture schools around the world.